الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونتوب إليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. So we're grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala again for having given us the opportunity to be alive and to be Muslims who come to a house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and learn about our deen. We ask that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept from us, and we ask that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes everything that we do sincere for Him. So this is the fourth session of the class that we started on Tajweed. And last week we started a very important chapter that will be with us for a while. And that chapter is the chapter of Ahkamun Nun Sakinati wa Tanween. The rules that pertain and apply to a Nun Sakina and a Tanween. Right, Al-Hussein? That's what we started last week. And he started out by defining, as we can see it here, so this title over the next few sessions we'll be seeing this. A lot of this will change, but this will stay as a constant, because as we will remind one another in a second, inshallah, there are many rules that we learned that the Shaykh told us last week. So ahkamun nun sakinati wa tanween. So a nun sakina is a nun that has a sukoon, as he told us. Hiya nunul khaliya min al haraka. It is a nun that does not have a fatha, does not have a dhamma, or does not have a kasra, but it has a sukoon. At tanween, he told us, التنوين by definition is نون ساكنة زائدة تلحق آخر الأسماء لفظا لا خطا وهو عبارة أو التنوين هو عبارة عن الفتحتين أو الضمتين أو الكسرتين. So التنوين by definition is actually a noun that has a sukoon, that is additional, that you will find in the last word, the last letter of nouns in Arabic. When you talk about Arabic grammar, whenever you see a tanween in Arabic grammar, you know for sure that this is a noun. This is not a verb, this is not a letter, this is not a fi'l, this is not a harf, but it is an ism. So at-tanween min alamati asma fi al-lughati al-arabiyya. And then he says it is spoken but not written. And then he told us that of this, the rules that we are about to talk are four: al-ilhar, al-idgham, al-iqlab, and al-ikhfa. And last week we started by talking about al-ilhar. He defined for us al-ilhar. He gave us a linguistic definition. When the Arabs say al-ilhar, what do they mean? It means al-bayan. And then he told us istilahan, functionally in a tajweed, what does al-ilhar mean? إخراج كل حرف من مخرجه من غير غنة. It is to pronounce every single letter exactly the way it is supposed to be pronounced without any غنة. Ghunna being that sound that we learn, صوت حسن له رنين يخرج من الخيشوم لا عمل للسان فيه. It is a beautiful sound that comes out of the nostril. It's the nose. The tongue does not have anything to do with it. When I say قُلْ أَعُوذُ بِرَبِّ النَّاسِ, so when I'm nas, so that noon that has a shadda, the sound, that is al-ghunna. So what he's telling us is, when we have a rule of al-ilhar, we don't have that ghunna. We read it naturally. An'amta, right? As we saw, man amana. So, and he told us that there are 6 letters of the Arabic alphabet that are the letters of al-ilhar. So meaning, if any one of these letters comes after a noon that has a sukoon or a tanween, then we apply the rule of al-ilhar. And these 6 letters are al-hamza, al-ha, al-ha, al-kha, al-ayin, and al-ghayin. So these are the 6 letters we need to memorize, and he gave us examples last week of each one of them. And at the end, inshallah, we'll talk about the homework. So now today, he's going to talk about the second rule of an-nun sakina wa tanween. So he's told us that there are 4. He told us about al-ilhar. Today he's going to teach us about al-idgham. So he starts out just like he's been doing with us, by giving us 2 definitions. When the Arabs say al-idgham, what do they mean? And when we say al-idgham in at-tajweed, what do we mean? A linguistic and a functional definition, and a contextual definition. Al-idghamu lughatan. He says in the Arab language, when they say al-idgham, it means idkhalu shay'in fi shay'in. Take something and put it in something else. This is a pen. هذا قلم. Right? If I say in Arabic, أدغمت القلم في جيبي, it means I took the pen and I put it in my pocket. So that is al-idgham in the Arabic language. اصطلاحا, in a Tajweed, when we say al-idgham, what do we mean? التقاء حرف ساكن بحرف متحرك بحيث يصيران حرفا واحدا مشددا. التقاء is the meeting, right? In Arabic, how do you say goodbye? Or see you? إلى اللقاء, right? So التقاء حرف, it is the meaning of one letter that has a sukun, sakin. Remember, this sakin, what is the difference between sakin here and sakin?
والناس المذكر.
Excellent. So this is masculine and this is feminine, right? It's the same word. The reason why, remember we said in Arabic, all of the letters of Arabic are feminine, right? So when we say an-nun in Arabic, we have to add ta al-marbuta here. But harf is a masculine, so we say harf in sakin. So you have a letter that has a sukun, and it meets another letter. Whenever we say in Tajweed, mutaharrik, it means it has a vowel other than sukun. So there is always a distinction. Two kinds of letters. A letter that has a sukun is by definition harf sakin. A letter that has a vowel other than a sukun, that becomes harf mutaharrik. So we have either fatha, or we have a kasra, or we have a dhamma. Beautiful. So meaning of one letter that has a sukun with another letter that has another vowel other than a sukun, be it a dhamma, be it a fatha, be it a kasra, بحيث يصيران, so that these two letters, so يصيران, these two letters become harfan, one letter, واحدا مشددا, so one letter that has a shadda. So that is the functional definition of al-idgham. Now, naturally we'll do what we did with al-ilhar. Remember, the task here is to take the Arabic alphabet and divide the letters to these four rules. We'll give ilhar some children, al-idgham some children, al-iqlab maybe one child, and al-ikhfa some children, right? So that's what we're doing. So we gave al-idgham how many children? Six. Now he's going to tell us how many do we give to al-idgham. عدد حروف الإدغام. What is the number of letters in the Arabic language that pertain and that belong to al-idgham? It says sittatun. Sitta is? Six. So just like al-ilhar, now we have the same number of letters. Al-ilhar had 6, and al-idgham, the Shaykh tells us, has 6 letters. And then he tells us, what are these 6 letters? He says here, these letters are al-ya, the letter ya, al-ra, ra, al-mim, al-lam, al-waw, al-nun. Is that 6? And then he gives us actually something that we can use to remember them, that we did not have with al-ilhar. He says, وَهِيَ مَجْمُوعَةٌ فِي كَلِمَةٍ. And these 6 letters are actually represented in one word. So if you want to remember the letters of al-idgham, yarmaluna is what you need to remember. Ya, ra, mim, lam, waw, nun. So ya, ra, mim, lam, waw, nun. So now this is much easier. So what are the letters of al-idgham? Hussein? Yarmaluna, right? So yarmaluna is now part of our vocabulary, huh? Right? It's on board. So 6 letters. Al-ya, al-ra, al-mim, al-lam, al-waw, al-nun. وَهِيَ مَجْمُوعَةٌ فِي كَلِمَةِ يَرْمَلُونَ. So it is yarmaluna that reminds us of the 6 letters of al-idgham. Now, what does it mean? What it means is if I have a ya, if I have a ra, or a mim, or a lam, or a waw, or a nun, and it comes after a nun that has a sukun, or a tanween, I apply the rule of al-idgham. Right? So that's what we're talking about. So now things are becoming a little bit more complex. Right, Abdulaziz? Last week we only had one rule and 6 letters. So we had one rule where when I see a noon that has a sukoon, or I see a tanween, I ask myself naturally, what is the letter that comes after it, right? If the letter that comes after it is al-hamza, or al-ha, or al-ha, or al-kha, or al-ayyin, or al-ghayyin, then I know that I have the rule of al-ilhar. I read it naturally, no gunna. Now if the letter that comes after the noon that has a sukoon, or the tanween, is al-ya, or al-ra, or al-mim, or al-lam, or al-waw, or al-ya, yarhamukallah.
An-noon.
So an-noon, I just say yarhamukallah, and then the ya took me over, right? So if I have a ya, or if I have a ra, if I have a mim, I have a lam, or a waw, or a noon, and it follows a noon that has a sukoon, or a tanween, then I know that I'm dealing with al-idgham. And now that I know then that there is something that needs to happen, what needs to happen is the noon that has a sukoon or the tanween needs to do what now? What needs to happen? So we defined it. So look at that, it's to take something and put it in something. And then he tells us it's to take a harf that has a sukoon. Which harf has the sukoon here? The noon and the tanween. So which letter will not have the sukoon?
The next letter.
And the noon. So what needs to happen then?
You have to make it.
Put a shadda on one of these 6 letters.
So the noon, so somehow the noon that has a sukoon that I have here or have here will have to get into
those ones, and
those
then
ones.
with the shadda.
Huh?
To combine.
So that if some kind of putting in has to happen, right? I have to put the noon that has a sukoon or the tanween into one of these letters, right? Now how does it happen? It becomes a little bit more complex. Now in al-idhar we had just one rule. Idhar was just one. 6 letters, 1 rule. Now here today he's telling us that idgham is different. Idgham has divisions. There are different kinds of idgham. He says aqsamul idgham. What are the divisions? What are the kinds of al-idgham? He says lil idgham qisman. There are 2 kinds of idgham. One is called idghamun bi ghunna. You have idgham and you have a ghunna. What is ghunna? So it means that I expect that at some point in time, idgham, there is one idgham where I will have to say, spend time, right? And then he said there is an idgham bi ghayri ghunna. There is an idgham where the letter will go inside of the letter, but I will not spend time. Right? You with me? So idgham has 2 kinds. There are 2 kinds of idgham. One in which I will have to spend time because of the ghunna, and one in which I will not spend time because it does not have a ghunna. But one thing for sure will happen. I will take that noon that has a sukoon, or that tanween that implicitly has a noon that has a sukoon, and put it in one of the letters. So then now, what is the next thing that I need to know? There are 2 kinds of idgham, and I know that I have 6 letters of idgham, right? What do I need to do? So see that it has to have, it can be idgham bi ghunna or bi ghayri ghunna. Now, does it make sense that then I need to ask myself, which of these letters belong to this, and which of these letters belong to this? Right? What we have here is we have al-idgham. And it's telling us this, right? So we have bi ghunna and bi ghayri ghunna, right? And in al-idgham we have 6 letters, yarmalun. So now this is different from this. right? And remember, in Tajweed and in these rules, specificity matters, right? So it means that necessarily some of these letters have to be for this and not for this. And some of these letters have to be for this and not for this, so that I can make the distinction. Does that make sense? So let's see what the Shaykh teaches us. So he starts out by teaching us about al-idgham bil-ghunna. He says now when we have al-idgham bil-ghunna, he says what are the letters? Of these 6 letters, how many of these 6 letters belong to al-idgham bil-ghunna and what are they? He says lahu meaning al-idgham bil-ghunna arba'atu hurufi. It has 4 letters. Here, and these 4 letters are al-ya, al-noon, al-mim, al-waw. So what did we do? Of these 6 letters, we took 4. So how many letters? Now without even, so next week we'll do inshallah al-idgham bighayri ghunna. So even before next week, how many letters does al-idgham bighayri ghunna have? 2. Bighayri ghunna, right? Because if I take 4 out of 6, what am I left with?
2.
And what are those letters? So I have aliyah, I have a noon, and I have a mim, and I have a waw. So ya is here, noon is here, mim is here, and waw is here. What are the 2 letters that I did not include? Ra and a lam. So naturally, ra and lam next week will give them to be right. You see? Does that make sense? So that's exactly what. So we're talking about al-idgham. 6 letters, 2 kinds of idgham. Bi-ghunna, bi-ghayri ghunna. Of these 6 letters that are represented by the word yarmalun, 4 belong to al-idgham bi-ghunna. So meaning that if I have of these 4 letters, al-ya, al-nun, al-mim, al-waw, and he gives us actually another word that is going to be part of our vocabulary. وَهِيَ مَجْمُوعَةٌ فِي كَلِمَةٍ. And these 4 letters of al-idgham bil-ghunna are represented in yanmu. So we have yarmaluna here, and now we have yanmu. So now we have 2 words. Al-Hussein, 2 words. Ahmad, 2 words. Yarmaluna are the letters of Yarmaluna are the letters of al-idgham. Yanmu are the letters of. Say it in complete sentence. So bil-ghunna, right? Bil-ghunna, right? So yarmaluna are the letters of al-idgham, and yanmu are the letters of al-idgham bil-ghunna. Right? We're there? And then he says, but there are exceptions. And the exceptions we'll come to in a second. And it has to do with the structure. But now let's take the examples and then we'll see the exceptions. So we want examples, right? And which book should we open? Quran? Not Sahih Muslim? So let's open the Quran. So Amthilatul Idgham bi Ghunna. So he's giving us examples. So he'll give us an example of ya. So here we have a noon, man, yaqul. So the Arab will say man yaqul, right? وَمِنْهُمْ مَنْ يَقُولُ ذَلِّ وَلَا تَفْتِنِّي, right? So here we have a noon that has a sukun. Is that familiar to us?
Yeah.
So when we have a noon that has a sukun in Quran, what is my first thing that I need to do?
To figure out if it's a.
What is the first thing that I need to do? So this I will say over and over again, inshallah, until it becomes second nature to us. I see a noon that has a sukun, or I see a tanwir. What is the first thing that I need to
See
do?
what's the next letter and
Excellent.
what does it?
Look at what is the next letter.
Which hukm does it for?
Now that next letter, I need to know. If I don't know the letters of al-ibhar, and if I don't know the letters of al-idgham, if I don't know the letter of al-iqlab, if I don't know the letters of al-ikhfa, chances are I will not read it right? So that is my first task. So now when I read the Quran, now a noon that has a sukun, or a tanween, I need to know what is the letter. So that letter, ya, I learned is one of the letters of al-idgham. But al-idgham has 2 kinds. Al-idgham bi ghunna and al-idgham bi ghayri ghunna. And then So we have two kinds of idgham. بغنة بغير غنة. So al-ya, which one does it belong to? Al-ya was actually one of the words of yammu. And yammu, I was told, are the four letters of al-idgham bil-ghunna. So then I have a noon that has a sukoon followed by a ya. So here I have a case of al-idgham bil-ghunna. So the noon will go into the ya, but then I will spend time because this is ghunna. So this I will not read man yaqul. That becomes a mistake now. I will say man yaqul. So may, the noon goes into the ya, and I spend time. Man yaqul. Does that make sense? Man yaqul. Now if I read and I say man yaqul, what did I do right?
You don't breathe the shot there.
But what did I do right? So let's ask you then.
You brought down Ghunna, but you didn't spend time.
So what did I? So let's say. Let me say it again. If I say وَمِنْهُمْ مَنْ يَقُولُ ذَلِّ, what did I do right? مَنْ يَقُول.
You respect the rule, but you didn't spend time on
but you don't bring the
غنة.
Barakallahu fiqh. That's exactly where we need to get to. What did I do right? I did idgham right. I said may yaqul. I took the noon, put it in the ya. But I did not do right because I did not do al-idgham bil ghunna. I did not do it with a ghunna. Right? So that is extremely important. Now if I said man yaqul, what did I do right?
العكس. It's a غنة but he
There
didn't
is
do
a
it.
ghunna there.
Yeah.
But is there an idgham?
No.
No, right? I'm becoming a bad student. They're laughing at me. Huh? So, so that's how we read it. So now I know if I have a noon that has a sukoon and it is followed by a ya. Now I have not only al-idgham, but I have al-idgham bil ghunna. So the noon goes into the ya, and then it goes with the ghunna. So that time that I spend becomes an obligation. Right, Abdulaziz? So may yaqul. Now here's an example with a tanween. I have a tanween here followed by a ya. So how do I read this? Barqun yaj'alun. Barqun. Right? So the noon that is implicit in the tanween goes in. But I spend time and I say Barqun. So that becomes, so now Imam when he recites, he's not just making his voice sound beautiful, he's applying rules. That's why he's taking time with the ghunna, right? So barqun yaj'alun. A noon. So here we have a noon that has a sukoon, and it's followed by another noon. So here we have a case of al-idgham. What kind of idgham do we have here? Bi-ghunna. Because I know that noon is one of the letters of al-idgham bil-ghunna. So then what it means is this noon will go completely to this noon. And there is another kind of idgham, inshallah, that we will learn, inshallah, that applies to this. We'll keep it, inshallah, for when it comes. So here what it means is that the proper way of reading it is to say, how do I read it? Excellent. Min ni'mah. Min ni'matin tujza. So if I say min ni'mah, that's not right because I did not spend time for the ghunna. So min ni'mah. So here's a case of tanween followed by a noon. So here yawma idhin na'imah, right? Because I have a tanween and it's followed by a noon. So I know that I have al-idgham bil ghunna here. So yawma idhin na'imah. Al-mim. I have a noon that has a sukoon followed by a mim. So here I know that this noon is going inside the mim and I'm spending time. Right? Mimma lillahi alladhi ataakum. Right? Mimma sad habalun. So now remember, Ahmad, when Ustad was telling us in the Quran class We used to say habalun. We have a tanween followed by a mim. Mimma said so. Mimma lillah. So here we have a tanween followed by a mim. Lu'lu'an manthura. Lu'lu'an manthura. What is that?
Which one?
A nun that has a sukun. What is that letter? Tha. Do we have idhar here?
No.
Do we have idgham here?
No.
Okay, so let's keep it to for the next time. So there is another rule there, right? So al-waw. So here we have a nun that has a sukun, followed by a waw. Miwal. Miw. We spent time. Miwal. Tanween, followed by a waw. ولكل وجهة ولكل وجهة. Right? So let's go over it again. Al-idgham is our second rule of the rules of nun sakina and tanween. What does it mean in the Arabic language to say al-idgham? It means idkhalu shay'in fi shay'in, to take something and put it in something else, right? Adghamtu al-qalama fi jaybi. I put the pen in my pocket, right? Istilahan, in Tajweed, when we say what it means iltiqa'u harfin sakin. The meaning of one harf that has a sukun, bi harfin mutaharrik. A harf that does not have a sukun, it has either a fatha or a dhamma or a kasra. Bihaythu yasirani, so that these two letters that are meeting become one harf that has a shadda. Adadu huruf al-idgham. How many letters does al-idgham have? It has sitta. It has 6 letters. So just like al-idhar that had 6 letters, al-idgham has 6 letters. What are these 6 letters? They are al-ya, al-ra, al-mim, al-lam, al-waw, al-nun. وهي مجموعة في كلمة. And these 6 letters of al-idgham are actually represented in this word. So for me, instead of remembering al-ya, al-ra, al-mim, al-lam, al-waw, al-nun, I just need to remember the word yarmalun. And I know that the letters that compose the word yarmalun are the letters of al-idgham, right? And then he tells us aqsamul idgham. Now idgham is different from al-idhar. It has kinds. Idgham qisman. Idgham has 2 kinds. What are they? There is one kind that is called idghamun bi ghunna, idgham with ghunna, and idghamun bi ghayri ghunna, and idgham without ghunna. So now it makes sense for us to go and define what is idgham bi ghunna and what are its letters, and what is idgham bi ghayri ghunna and what are its letters. He says al-idgham bil ghunna has 4 letters. Of these 6 letters of al-idgham, 4 belong to al-idgham bil ghunna. What are the 4 letters? Al-ya, al-nun, al-mim, al-waw. وهي مجموعة في كلمة يمن. And these 4 letters of al-idgham bil ghunna are represented in the word yanmu. So I know that the letters that compose the word yanmu are the letters of al-idgham bil ghunna. And these are the examples that he's given us. An example for ya, a nun that has a sukun followed by a ya. So not only do I take the nun and put it, but I spend time. So I cannot say may yaqul. That's not right. That is not al-idgham bil ghunna. So may yaqul barqun yaj'alun. An example for nun. Min ni'mah yawma idhin na'imah. Mim. Mimma lillah. Tanween and a mim. Lu'lu'an manthura. Al-waw. Miwal. So remember, what makes the difference is whether I have ghunna. And in ghunna, I absolutely have to spend time. At least 2 seconds, right? If I'm not spending time, I'm not doing it right. So miwal. وَلِكُلِّ وِجْهَةٍ. Right? Now, there are exceptions. And the exceptions is actually easy. And it has to do with the fact that when we talk about al-idgham bil-ghunna, the noon that has the sukoon and the letter of al-idgham bil-ghunna, they have to be in two different words. Notice here, man is one word, right? Yaqul is another word. So is the noon separate from, is the noon in a word separate from the ya? Right? So two different words. Min ni'ma, the same thing. So you have a noon that is part of one word and a noon that is part of another word. The same thing, a noon that is part of one word and a mim that is part of another word. A noon that is part of one word and a waw that is part of another word. Tanween, we know, this is natural. Tanween always is at the last letter of the word, right? And that word has to be a noun. So now when you have a noon that has a sukoon and it's followed by a ya and they're in the same word, there you don't do al-idgham bil-ghunna. That's why he says here, وَيُسْتَثْنَى مِنْ ذَلِكَ. Exception to this rule, and the beautiful thing is that it's these four words that you need to remember in the Quran. Ad-dunya. If Imam recites and say, I learned al-idgham today bil-ghunna, and Imam at Isha say, وَمَا الْحَيَاةُ الدُّنْيَا. We tell Imam, no. Dunya is an exception, right, Amadu? وَمَا الْحَيَاةُ الدُّنْيَا. Don't we have a noon that has a sukoon? Do we?
Yes.
Is it not followed by a ya?
Yeah.
Isn't ya one of the letters of al-idgham bil-ghunna? Why don't we have al-idgham bil-ghunna here?
Exception.
Because it's an exception. And why do we have the exception? They're in the same word. Excellent. In Surah Al-An'am, do we have a noon that has a sukoon? Do we?
Yes.
Yeah.
What is it followed by?
Wow.
Waw is one of the letters of
Idgham.
bil-ghunna. Do we have al-idgham bil-ghunna here?
No.
And the reason is they're in the same word. Sinwan in Surah Al-Ra'd. So we have a noon that has a sukoon followed by a waw, and they're in the same word. Do we have here al-idgham bil-ghunna? No, we don't, because of the fact that they're in the same word. And the last word is bunyan. Do we have a noon that has a sukoon
Yes.
followed by a?
Yeah.
Do we have al-idgham bil-ghunna here? No, we don't. And the reason is the noon and the ya in the same word. So these are the four words that you will remember in the Quran. There are a lot of dunya in Al-Quran, right? Qinwan is only one time in the Quran. Sunwan is twice. Sunwan wa ghayr sunwan in the same surah. They're separated by one word. In Surah Al-Ra'd, bunyan you will see in the Quran as well, right? So these are the four exceptions. Anywhere else that I see a noon that has a sukoon or a tanween, and it's followed by one of these four letters, I have a case of al-idgham bil-ghunna. Does that make sense? Is that clear?
Yes.
Should we go over it one more time? So that means that it's clear, alhamdulillah. So, to recapitulate, ahkamun noon is sakinati wa tanween. When I see a noon that has a sukoon in Quran, and I see a tanween, I have to pay attention, because there are rules that I need to observe. And these rules, there are four of them. First one is al-idghar, second one is al-idgham, and the third one is al-iqlab, and the fourth one is al-ikhfa. So what it means is that if I have a noon that has a sukoon, or I have a tanween, I have to pay attention to the letter that comes after it and decide which rule to apply. The first rule we learned was al-idghar. Al-idghar, we know to read the letter, pronounce it correctly the way that the Arabs would, without any gunna. It has 6 letters. Al-hamza, al-ha, al-ha, al-kha, al-ayyin, and al-ghayyin. So if I have a noon that has a sukoon, or I have a tanween, it's followed by one of these 6 letters, natural reading, no gunna. Al-idgham is idkhalu shay'in fi shay', to take something and put it in something else. And then he tells us the definition, istilahan, is التقاء حرف ساكن بحرف متحرك بحيث يصيران حرفا واحدا مشددا. So you have a letter that has a sukun. In this case, it is our nun sakina, or our tanween that implicitly has a nun that has a sukun that we are saying but we are not writing. And then it meets another letter that does not have a sukun. They become one letter. And then he tells us how many letters belong to al-idgham. 6 letters. Al-ya, al-ra, al-mim, al-lam, al-waw, and nun. And the way to remember them is yarmalun. I remember one word, I have the 6 letters of al-idgham. But al-idgham is different from al-idhar in the sense that it has 2 kinds. There is one kind that is called idghamun bi ghunna or idghamun bi ghayri ghunna. Idgham in which when I take the letter, the nun that has a sukun, and I put it in the letter that follows it, I spend time. Ghunna being the time that I spend, time, right? And there is one in which I don't spend time. Now the first one being al-idgham bil ghunna has 4 letters. Of these 6 letters of al-idgham yarmalulu, 4 of them belong to idgham bil ghunna. What are the 4 letters? Al-ya, al-nun, al-mim, al-waw. Meaning, if I have a ya, if I have a nun, if I have a mim, or a waw, and they follow a nun that has a sukun or a tanween, I have the rule of al-idgham bil ghunna. And the way I remember these letters of al-idgham bil ghunna is by remembering just the word yanmu. When I remember the word yanmu, I know its letters are the letters of al-idgham bil ghunna. And these are the examples. But now there are exceptions. And the exceptions are these 4 words in the Quran. And that has to do with the fact that in order for me to have al-idgham bil ghunna, the nun that has the sukun, and the ya that follows it, or the nun that follows it, or the mim that follows it, or the waw that follows it, have to be in 2 separate words. Now in these examples, there are exceptions, or in these exceptions, I should say, ad-dunya, here we have a nun that has a sukun followed by a ya, but they're in one word. So here we don't have al-idgham bil ghunna. We read it naturally. Here qinwan, same thing. Nun that has a sukun followed by a waw, but I don't say qinwan. Incorrect. Qinwan. Sinwan, the same thing, and bunyan, the same thing. So these are the exceptions, and these are the examples. So next week, inshallah, the homework for next week, inshallah, is, so we go back to from Surah Al-Adiyat to Surah Al-Nas, and then we'll, in every one of this surah, we'll bring out examples of al-idgham bil ghunna. Right? Is that easy? That's easy, right? So that's what we'll do, Ahmed, right? Sure? We have a plan? Inshallah. So inshallah we'll stop here, and next week inshallah we'll talk about al-idgham bi ghayri al-ghunna, what it means, and what are the letters, and what are the examples. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk.